What's up, fellow lords of gaming? Welcome back to another episode of Marvel Future Fight. So this is my second time recording this, so if you happen to hear the last video, please just watch this one and deal with me on this one. So let's get over the bump in the road. I basically made a mistake in recording and now I'm going to re-record it. So what is this video about? It's about the release of the mid-month patch for Marvel Future Fight, which was very dry. In a nutshell, it only included the character you see before you, which is Echo, aka Thunderbird, aka Ronin. Not a lot of fanfare around this character at all, if we're being realistically honest. Like, realistically, not a lot of people even knew who Echo was before the Hawkeye series. And this is a character that's been around for a while in the comic books, but nobody really know who she is unless you're just like a really big comic book fans, because her story is really entwined to a lot of things: Kingpin, New York City, Daredevil. But unless you're a comic book reader, not a lot of people read Marvel Knights comics in the first place. You don't really know who Echo is, so there wasn't going to be a lot of fanfare about this character being introduced into Marvel Future Fight, let alone that it feels like it's inappropriately introduced into the game now, because we essentially missed out on this character when they did the Into the Phoenix update a couple of months ago, when we've got the uniforms for Captain America. You can see his Phoenix Force uniform here, when we got Wolverine, and when we got Hyperion. So for some reason or another, she was left out of that whole demographic, which, you know, it's like, why? We don't really know. It's like one of those questionable things, but she was left out of it, and essentially now we're getting her, and it's in another update that feels totally out of place, because we're essentially looking at that we just received Gamora Drax, and we got Adam Warlock, which was basically Infinity Watch, and it was looking like we were probably going to get Thanos or something like that, but instead we got Echo. Now, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I love this character model. This is waifu for me. There's a lot of detail inside this uniform. I think the uniform looks absolutely great. Like this, I love the costume. It screams sexy while also screaming strength, and it just has so many callback features to Echo's heritage and her identity as Thunderbird that you really can't be mad at. So overall, I think the quality of the uniform is definitely great, especially with the flame effects coming off her. I think this is one of the better uniforms inside Marvel Future Fight. Therein where we get to the problem of the uniform, right? Essentially what we're looking at with the character is that we have a character who has no awakening and no T3. So you can see the character skill sets here. There is no awakening or T3 for this character, which in this game, currently 7 years almost in, it just doesn't make sense to have a character who isn't going to get an awakening T3. The last time we received characters like this was when we got Winwu for the Mandarin back in September, and that was a big letdown, because why are we receiving characters? So we only have one place where this character realistically is going to be used in game, and that's Shadowlands, unfortunately. So the up front, I want to tell you guys, the players, especially if you're a new player, mid player, don't purchase this character. This character is literally only for players who are veterans or who are just toon collectors. There is no reason for you to collect this character. More deeply than the fact that she doesn't have a T3 or awakening is the fact that there are plenty of other blast characters that are probably just more suitable for you to be building. If I was to look at the top characters over across the board and just blast here alone and limit it down to female characters, she is not outdoing Moonstone. She is not outdoing Cersei. She's not outdoing Betsy, Sharon, Jean, or Storm. I don't even think she's outdoing Storm, but she could be, or Emma. So there's no reason for you to necessarily build this character. Even worse than the fact that, she just basically comes in as a non-awakened, non-T3 character is, it just gets worse, right? Is the fact that you have to purchase this character. She is 100% locked behind a paywall. The only way for you to obtain this character is basically from the Marvel Mall. You have to go into the store and you have to choose how you want to purchase this character. There's a couple of ways that you can purchase this character if that is what you're looking for, and I'm going to tell you which one is probably the best in my opinion. This is just what I'm going to say to you, right? Is that you could get the 20 biometrics that's daily, and you could pay the $9.99, right? All you get is the 20 biometrics every day with the upfront 300 cost. But I'm going to tell you to avoid this, and the reason why I'm going to tell you avoid this is because most likely if you're a new player, then what you're going to run into is that you don't have a way to get this character from tier 1 to tier 2, and you're going to really kick yourself in the ass when you realize that there's a better way for you to actually proceed, and that is using the special daily growth support. Yes, it's $20 more, but what you're going to get is the ability to pick and choose on the 20-day on the 30-day scale which characters you get, whether it's mutant or whether it's normal standard biometric characters, which is going to have a whole lot more benefit to you overall, in my opinion. So I would take and pay attention to that. Not only are you going to be able to choose between mutants and mutant or normal biometric character, but at every 14-day interval in here, so twice within the 30-day period, you will be able to get a free tier 2 selection from there. So you'll advance tier 1 character to tier 2 for every 14th check-in, and then if you had 84 days, or at least you're working up to that, every 84 days you're able to get a tier 3 character. So this works out really well for you, because if you're trying to build up some kind of roster, then you could basically look at 14 days being in here and you basically get that next character. This is a pretty damn good deal in my opinion, especially if you're trying to initially build up roster for characters that you don't have, because then you can look at getting characters that are inside the shop, like Phyla-Vell is a good choice inside there. There's a few characters, Luna Snow, that you could have as a free-to-play player. There's a few characters, Hyperion, you can get those characters, even Enchantress. These are good characters that you can pilfer from here, because you're not going to need the entirety of those biometrics. So I would go and choose a different character each day, so that way I have that character in my pool, and then slowly level them up as I got mega rank up tickets, or utilize the tier 2. And even if you want to use this on her, then you could use it on a potential other character, right? So that's my suggestion, right? Now, the main issue that I have with her not receiving her tier 3 is simply the fact that we are looking at a character who is in her most powerful form. So we've seen this character inside the Hawkeye show, where she was essentially basically probably what we would have amounted to a speed-based character, and she was fighting on par with Hawkeye and Kate Bishop. And realistically, when you look at her in the comics, she doesn't amount to more than that either, because she's basically, she has intrinsic roles inside the series, but she's never like the standout powerhouse. This was the first time in her history that probably the first time and the last time in her history that she was ever going to be the powerhouse of anything, right? Anything at all. So it just feels a little bit weird in terms of her receiving her Phoenix Force uniform and not getting that, because even if Disney Plus picks up a spin-off series from her and they decide that they're going to later on give her her costume to fit that version, it's essentially going to be a step back. It's essentially, like thematically at the very least, it would be a step back for the character. So it's not good in that sense. And to be honest with you, there's just no way in my mind that they're going to top this character off in terms of what it is. So what's the expectation of getting a uniform for this character, let alone getting an Awakening or a T3? And this is one of the reasons why I say, if you are a new player or a free-to-play player or a player that's concerned with things like this, do not purchase this character. At best, this is a Shadowlands character for you, and that is it. I hate to say that. I don't know why they released the character, and it's just going to cause a lot of drama, discontent in the community. Now, one of the reasons why I will say that I understand the pricing behind it is because, like I said, if you look at this costume, this is definitely waifu right here. You are looking at a very high quality costume. This is a really good looking costume. Even when you look at her skill animation, so let's take a look at these. I will say they put a lot of work and effort and time into these skill animations. I absolutely love her skills. Her entrance looks dope. So you get into her first skill, looks like a Shoryuken. You can see the Phoenix Force just come from the floor and then ascend into the sky. It looks really dope. It's so quick that the Phoenix actually comes, but you can catch it if you look at it. to pay attention to it, and you'll see the Phoenix actually rise from her fist or from her, you know, her batons that she has, and then her billy clubs, her nightclub, and then goes up into the sky, right? Her 2 skill looks just as good, and it reminds me of Makari, where it's just her dashing around and back and forth and like kind of making illusions. It's really a cool skill. Her 3rd skill still looks cool as hell too. You can see like she just basically goes all Chun-Li, but with fist instead of, you know, her feet, and she just lands a bunch of shots. She sucks everybody into it too, and she's invulnerable for the period while she's getting ready to set up for the punches. It's a really cool looking skill. Her 4th skill alone looks like it could have been an awakening level skill. Like look at this skill. He rises up while you got all the little phoenixes, surrounding her, and then she bursts out into her phoenix flame. This is a cool looking uniform. While she has that shield around her, that is a really cool looking 4th skill. It definitely could have been an awakening level skill, in my opinion, in terms of just looks. And her 5th skill looks like it could have been an awakening or T3 skill in its own right as well. Why Netmarble? Why? So clearly you were working on Into the Phoenix Force, and here we get all the way, you know, months away from the Enter the Phoenix Force being released, and now we've got a character that doesn't have a T3, doesn't have an awakening, and it doesn't really make sense to me, because even if you thematically didn't want her to be the strongest Phoenix Force character in the game, because you still wanted to reserve that right for Jean Grey, you could have still gave her an awakening. We have seen characters like Moonstone, who have had just awakening abilities, still be just as good as characters that are at the T3 level while not necessarily having a T3 title. Why was she introduced with the Phoenix Force power and essentially no idea that she would ever see this height of power again in this game? I just don't get it. I don't understand. It really throws me for a loop. So I'm going to throw this in here again. If you are a free-to-play player, if you're beginning level player, do not purchase this character. Don't rush to purchase this character. There's no reason for you to purchase this character. Overall, her skills, I think they look cool. She has some pretty good defining effects on some of her skills. Like number 1 and number 2, there's not a lot going on in there. There's paralysis and there's some incapacitation and some stuns, but nothing really there. But on her 3rd skill, not her passive skill, but her 3rd skill, you'll actually start to notice some of the benefits and bonuses. She actually has true damage accumulation. I mean, what do we have a true damage accumulation on a character that's basically World Boss Ultimate and freaking and Shadowlands? I mean, true damage accumulation on an ultimate character? Like, what? This doesn't make any sense. Not to mention it has burn and bleed, stun and silence, so she'd be good for ABX as well if she was in the awakening or freaking her 4th skill is not too bad, not shabby at all. Gives her an 80% chance for immunity. Not bad at all, in my opinion. Like, that's a really decent skill inside there. And her 5th skill, she has a frenzy buff that, in my opinion, wasn't necessarily that great. Like, that frenzy buff could definitely do with some improvements inside here. But basically, overall, what we end up looking at is a character with a really good leadership that's not going to be able to be utilized by many of the characters inside of World Boss Legend, because even if you're only 2 months in, you should be most likely having this character at World Boss, be playing World Boss Legend on a daily basis, whether it's Null, Mephisto, or Infinity Ultron. Infinity Ultron's a little bit harder, but you should be able to look at those characters. So I don't get what the intent behind Netmarble producing a character that essentially was not going to be utilized, because you cut her off at the legs. I mean, she wasn't a known character, so she wasn't a known entity to players in order to engage them in terms of purchasing it. She wasn't going to be T3 or T2, so she wasn't going to break into the meta or become usable on most people's rosters. So why did you add this character to the game? You basically cut yourself under the rug. Like, why? All you had to do was give this character an awakening ability or T3, and players would have been happy with what they would have probably purchased in this character, because it's a very nice character model, very nice skins. I love the model. I could look at the model all goddamn day, if I'm being honest with you. But you really just cut yourself out from under your legs. Like, just Jesus, you did the same thing with Blade, and it just pisses me off. Like, it really pisses me off that you've done it. And if you know, you know. It's a trend. If you know, you know. I'm not gonna say it, but it's a trend. If you know, you know. Hopefully this is like some kind of, like, hoodwink, and they're gonna throw the T3 on her or something like that, or give her the awakening. But I doubt it. I doubt it strongly. I doubt that we even come back and revisit this character at any point in the near future. But so sadly, I'm gonna say it again at the end of this video. Do not purchase this character. It's just, unless you are in that vicinity, that crowd that basically likes to toon collect, or you know, you're a veteran player and you just want to continue to add to your roster, there's no reason to purchase this character, unfortunately. None. Absolutely none. Just not. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Sorry about the mix up with it. Until next time. Peace.